Chapter 91. The light of Buddha lingered, spreading in all directions. At this moment, Daoist Zhang felt as insignificant as an ant, looking up at an all-powerful Buddha. Supreme, majestic, unrivaled. Plop. Daoist Zhang's thoughts fell into darkness, and he fell to the ground with a plop. Venerable One. Thank you for your help, Venerable One. Abbot Huiwen and the court heads barely recovered from the shock and bowed deeply in the direction of the mountain. After a while, all the visions gradually dissipated. Venerable One, the strength of the Venerable One is getting more and more unimaginable. Abbot Huiwen sighed and said with emotion. So far, Abbot Huiwen has seen Su Qin make a move twice. The first time was when the Demon Lord attacked the Shaolin Temple, and the second time was when Daoist Zhang asked for an audience. If the first time Su Qin made a move, Abbot Huiwen felt that it was as vast as the heavens and earth, suppressing everything. But now, Abbot Huiwen felt as if it was an endless void, embracing and containing everything. Although the heavens and earth were vast, they were ultimately limited, but the void was endless. Of course, Su Qin had made a move more than twice, such as breaking into the Dharma court to save Abbot Huiwen and restoring the Buddha's heart for Xianxia. But in Abbot Huiwen's view, these were not real moves. Yes, the court heads next to him nodded in agreement. The means of the Venerable One were indeed incredible. Ordinary martial artists, even if they were Grade 1 Great Grandmasters, or even Peak Grade 1 like Daoist Zhang, could fight against tens of thousands and dominate the world. They could barely accept it. However, Su Qin's Buddhist aura was pervasive and the vision was rampant. This was already the legendary ability of the gods and Buddhas. If it weren't for the Venerable One, we might not be Daoist Zhang's opponent, the warrior monastery's court head whispered. Although the Shaolin Temple's foundation had increased greatly, not only did it have 2 more level 2 martial artists, but it also had a level 1A holy monk like Abbot Huiwen. In addition, there were also thousands of Shaolin Temple disciples. However, if he wanted to rely on these to block Daoist Master Zhang, it would be as difficult as ascending to the heavens. With Zhenren Zhang's strength, once he used his full strength, the destructive power produced by his every move would definitely make people's hearts palpitate. The reason why a peak Grade 1 Great Grandmaster can shake the world and surpass Grade 1 Great Grandmasters is because of their absolute strength. Otherwise, why would the Devil Lord dare to attack Xiaoshi Mountain and threaten to destroy the Shaolin Temple several years ago? The court heads looked at each other, rejoicing in their hearts. At this moment, the head of the commandment yard seemed to have discovered something and could not help but ask, Abbot, how should we deal with Zhenren Zhang? The head of the commandment yard had just finished speaking. The other court heads and Abbot Huiwen remembered and looked at Daoist Master Zhang who had fallen to the ground. The Dharma court had braced himself and cautiously approached. He glanced at him and said, He's not dead, he just fainted. The court heads looked at each other and suddenly felt that it was a bit tricky. Since the Venerable has shown mercy, let's send him back to Wudong Mountain. After a long time, Abbot Huiwen slowly said, I agree. The other court heads heard this and nodded slightly. In their eyes, if Su Qin had the intention to kill, Daoist Master Zhang would have died long ago. How could he just be in a coma now? Since Daoist Master Zhang is not dead, it means that the Venerable has shown mercy. In this case, Abbot Huiwen and the court heads will naturally follow Su Qin's instructions. Let's do this. I will send Daoist Master Zhang back later. Abbot Huiwen made a decision immediately. Back Mountain Forbidden Area. Daoist Master Zhang. Su Qin sat cross-legged, and a trace of emotion flashed in the depths of his eyes. Once upon a time, Daoist Master Zhang was a big shot that he could only look up to. Am I already so strong? Su Qin's thoughts fluctuated as he silently thought in his heart. Daoist Master Zhang, who was once unattainable, couldn't even bear a trace of his aura at this moment. However, in terms of fighting strength, Daoist Master Zhang is stronger than the Demon Lord. Su Qin compared Daoist Master Zhang and the Demon Lord and came to the conclusion that Daoist Master Zhang was better. In fact, whether it is Daoist Master Zhang or the Demon Lord, they are both peak Grade 1 Great Grandmasters who have transformed twice. In any era, they are enough to be called dazzling. But unfortunately, they met Su Qin. However, Daoist Master Zhang's Tao of Tai Chi is a bit interesting. If he has enough opportunities in the future, he may be able to undergo a third transformation and reach grade 1 great perfection. Su Qin speculated in his heart. Su Qin's evaluation of Daoist Master Zhang is already high enough. So far, Su Qin only thinks that Xian Ku is likely to undergo a third transformation and enter the realm of grade 1 great perfection. This is also because Xian Ku has a complete Buddha's heart and often receives guidance from Su Qin, the Venerable Arhat. Daoist Master Zhang can reach this step by himself, which is already a peerless talent. As for whether Daoist Master Zhang can go further, Su Qin can't judge. Every Venerable Arhat or legend has a different way of breaking through, and grasping the qi between heaven and earth is even more impossible to judge. Wudong Mountain. Daoist Master Zhang was not sent by the disciples of the Shaolin Temple. On the way, Daoist Master Zhang had already woken up from a coma. After a short silence, Daoist Master Zhang let the escorting disciples of the Shaolin Temple go back and returned to Wudong Mountain alone. Along the way, Daoist Master Zhang's mind kept flashing the scenes he saw in the Shaolin Temple, especially the last moment of his memory, when he saw the figure of a real Buddha. So, Daoist Master Zhang returned to Wudong Mountain. When the disciples of Wudong Mountain saw Daoist Master Zhang, they were overjoyed and surrounded him, looking at Daoist Master Zhang with concern. "Master, are you all right?" A Wudong Mountain disciple couldn't help but ask. It's really that at this moment, Daoist Master Zhang's expression was a bit strange. His whole person was in a trance, as if he was still immersed in some kind of emotion. "I'm fine." "How could I not be fine?" Daoist Master Zhang shook his head and smiled bitterly. This time, when he went down the mountain, nothing happened to him, not even a trace of injury, but only Daoist Master Zhang knew in his heart that he may not be able to get rid of the shadow of that godlike figure in his life. "Master, what did you see in the Shaolin Temple?" Zhang Xiao squeezed in front of Daoist Master Zhang and asked carefully. Before Daoist Master Zhang left, he only said that he wanted to go down the mountain to seek the Tao, which made the disciples of Wudong Mountain puzzled for a long time, but Zhang Xiao guessed that Daoist Master Zhang probably went to the Shaolin Temple to seek an audience with the Venerable. "What did I see in the Shaolin Temple?" Daoist Master Zhang repeated in a low voice, and a trace of ridicule appeared on his face. Lao Dao has always thought that even a real martial arts legend would need a few moves to defeat and kill me. But now, Daoist Master Zhang slowly raised his head and looked deeply in the direction of the Shaolin Temple. "Lao Dao, I was a frog in a well." Chapter 92. Shaolin Temple. Back Mountain Forbidden Area. Su Qin sat cross-legged. The entire Back Mountain Forbidden Area was shrouded in white mist. This mist was the real essence-gathering Holy Land. For Su Qin, it was nothing, but in the hearts of many disciples of the Shaolin Temple, it was tantamount to a holy land for cultivation. "Finally, I'm close to the peak of the third heavenly layer." Su Qin slowly opened his eyes, and a trace of joy appeared on his face. After this period of day and night cultivation, Su Qin finally reached the peak of the third heavenly layer. It is said that the fourth heavenly layer after the third heavenly layer will have some kind of qualitative change. Su Qin stroked his chin, a thoughtful look on his face. In the 9 grades of martial Tao, every 3 grades is divided into the lower realm, middle realm, and upper realm. This division is not just a division of grades, but also because the martial artists in the upper realm and the martial artists in the middle realm and the martial artists in the lower realm have some kind of change. For example, below the upper realm, martial artists only need to polish their body and internal strength. But if you want to enter the upper realm, you need to let go of the barrier between the body and heaven and earth, and let the heaven and earth's essence qi wash the body. This step is very critical. Who knows how many 4th grade martial artists have fallen because of this? But only in this way can you really enter the upper realm. The same is true for Arhat from the 3rd heavenly layer to the 4th heavenly layer. I thought that it would take at least a few years to enter the peak of the 3rd heavenly layer, but with the heaven and earth array gathering essence qi, as well as the glazed golden core, plus the past Amitabha Sutra, refining essence chi, it's actually close so quickly. Su Qin's thoughts were fluctuating. He had to say that the essence gathering Holy Land array did help Su Qin a lot. At least it shortened his accumulation time. In that case, just directly enter the peak of the third heavenly layer. Su Qin made up his mind. Stepping into the peak of the third heaven was not a breakthrough. As long as Su Qin was cautious, there would not be any danger. In addition, Su Qin had the Millennium Bodhi heart protecting him at all times. Unless Su Qin was courting death, it was impossible for any accident to happen. Just as Su Qin was immersed in cultivation once again. Rumble. The boundless chi of heaven and earth in the entire back mountain began to gather towards him. After all, the origin chi of heaven and earth within a radius of dozens of miles had already been gathered in the back mountain after the origin gathering Holy Land's formation. Time passed slowly. Several days passed in the blink of an eye. In the past few days, Su Qin had been immersed in cultivation except for the daily check-ins where Su Qin would go out. As he continued to inhale and exhale Yuan Qi, the aura in Su Qin's body became more and more complete, as if it had merged with the surrounding void. Could something have happened to the Venerable One? Xianxia stood outside the back mountain and muttered to himself. Usually, Su Qin would occasionally give him some pointers. But during this period, Xianxia had not even seen Su Qin's face, let alone give him pointers. Xianxia did not care about pointers. What he was worried about was whether something had happened to the Venerable One. Although in Xianxia's eyes, Su Qin was no different from a real Buddha, who would have thought that an accident would happen before it happened. Just as Xianxia was hesitating about whether to go in, the entire back mountain forbidden area fell silent. Then, the endless fog shrank and rushed into a certain location in the depths of the back mountain. This is? Xianxia was slightly stunned. As the Arhat of the Shaolin Temple, he naturally knew that the so-called fog was condensed from the chi of heaven and earth. According to what Xianxia knew, ever since the fog appeared outside the back mountain, there had never been a day where it disappeared completely. Could it be that something has really happened to the Venerable One? Xianxia's expression changed. At this moment, tap, 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 a series of light footsteps were heard. Xianxia looked up instinctively. He saw Su Qin walking outside step by step. Venerable One. Xianxia was overjoyed. He immediately walked to a spot not far away and bowed deeply. Rise. Su Qin did not even look at Xianxia as he said lightly. At this moment, the true essence in Su Qin's body was circulating endlessly as if there was no end to it. It kept rising and condensing. I've finally reached the peak of level 3. Su Qin sighed softly in his heart and looked down at Xianxia. Do you have any doubts about your cultivation recently? Su Qin paused for a moment and continued. In the future, if I'm not in the Shaolin Temple, you have to rely on yourself for everything. As soon as Su Qin said this, Xianxia's originally happy expression suddenly froze. Venerable One, are you going to leave the Shaolin Temple? Xianxia was silent for a while before he mustered up the courage to ask. Su Qin looked up at the sky and said slowly, Of course. Can the Venerable One take me with you? Xianxia immediately said eagerly, I can do anything for the Venerable One. If I leave, why would you follow me? Su Qin shook his head and said slowly, I have my path to walk, and you have yours to walk. Besides, it's not like we won't meet again. When you achieve Arhat in the future, you can come to me. A smile appeared on Su Qin's face as he looked at Xianxia. If Xianxia really has the opportunity and perseverance in the future to get rid of the fate of the previous holders of the Buddha's heart and step into the realm of Arhat, Su Qin doesn't mind accepting him as a disciple. Yes. Venerable One, I will work hard. Xianxia clenched his fists and said seriously. Seeing Xianxia's expression, Su Qin smiled and took a step forward, disappearing on the spot. When Su Qin appeared again, he was already in front of the Sutra Pavilion. Outside the Sutra Pavilion, many disciples of the Shaolin Temple were constantly entering and exiting, but they all, subconsciously, ignored Su Qin, as if Su Qin didn't exist at all. Su Qin quietly walked into the scripture depository pavilion. He walked around the first floor and muttered to himself, "System, sign in. Congratulations to the host for signing in successfully. You have received 9 revolutions whirling pill, *100. Prompt: the Dao accumulation here is about to run out, and it will become a place that cannot be repeatedly signed in." As expected, the Dao accumulation has been exhausted. Su Qin was silent in his heart. In fact, before signing in today, Su Qin vaguely realized that this was probably the last time he would sign in. In the Shaolin Temple, the Dao accumulation of the Sutra Pavilion and the Bodhi Court should not be much different. Now that the Dao accumulation of the Sutra Pavilion has been exhausted, even if the Bodhi Court still has some left, it won't last long. However, the last 109 revolutions whirling pills will definitely be able to compensate for the previous hundreds of sign-in rewards. Su Qin's thoughts turned, and his mind entered the system space. When he saw the extra 109 revolutions whirling pills in the corner, his mood suddenly became better. One must know that even with Su Qin's savings in the past 30 years, he only has about 609 revolutions whirling pills now, and this was saved by him scrimping and saving. Now that there are suddenly 100 more pills, Su Qin is naturally in a good mood. Chapter 93. Not bad, not bad. 109 revolutions whirling pills, even if I eat one every day, it will be enough for me to use for half a year. Su Qin nodded slightly. The medicinal power of the 9 revolutions whirling pill is even stronger than the glazed golden core. Even the current Su Qin needs 10 days to half a month to digest a complete 9 revolutions whirling pill. If he really takes it, these 109 revolutions whirling pills are enough for Su Qin to use for several years. It seems that in the Scripture Pavilion, the Bodhi Court, and the Demon Subduing Tower, there is a high chance of getting good things in the last check. Su Qin's eyes were thoughtful. For example, the last check-in in the Demon Subduing Tower allowed Su Qin to obtain the Demon Subduing Seal, which can restrain all the demon path martial artists in the world. Even an existence like the Devil Buddha will be reduced to ashes under the suppression of the Demon Subduing Seal. Among them, although the Devil Buddha has been suppressed for more than 900 years and his strength has been greatly reduced, the power of the Demon Subduing Seal cannot be ignored. There is also the Scripture Pavilion. Su Qin's last check-in obtained the Pearl Demon Subduing Supreme Divine Art. This divine art is an offensive divine art. It can condense 24 pearls and suppress the enemy. It is enough to rank in the top 200 among the many divine arts obtained by Su Qin. It's time to leave. Su Qin continued to stay in the Scripture Pavilion for a while, then turned and returned to the back mountain forbidden area. Dharma Court. Abbot Huiwen and the court heads were discussing Buddhist scriptures and martial arts. This has always been their habit. They will not be complacent. The warrior monastery's court head was even more delighted. Yesterday, he just broke through the bottleneck and officially entered the second-grade Grandmaster realm. Now our Shaolin Temple has 3 second-grade Grandmasters and 1 first-grade Grandmaster. Even among the martial arts sects in the world, we are not weak, the Arhat court head said. Compared to the difficult situation of the Shaolin Temple decades ago, the court heads at this moment felt like they were dreaming. All of this is because of the venerable, Abbot Huiwen sighed and said slowly. Indeed. If it wasn't for the venerable one, my Shaolin Temple would have been destroyed a long time ago. The other court heads immediately nodded in agreement. Perhaps the disciples who had just entered the Shaolin Temple did not know, but as old people who had lived for decades, of course, they knew how much the venerable had helped the Shaolin Temple. Just as Abbot Huiwen and the court heads were about to continue their conversation, a voice suddenly rang out. A calm and leisurely voice suddenly sounded in their ears. All of you, come to the back of the mountain. Abbot Huiwen was shocked. It's the venerable one. The venerable asked me to go to the back mountain. The court heads reacted, a trace of doubt flashing across their faces. The venerable one personally asked them to go to the back of the mountain. This was something that had never happened before. In the past, even if the venerable one had something to tell them, he would only inform one person. With this thought in mind, even the hot-tempered warrior monastery head realized that something was wrong. Don't think too much about it. Since the Venerable One asked us to go, let's go. Abbot Huiwen shook his head, slowly got up, and walked towards the back of the mountain. The other court heads heard this, looked at each other, and also followed behind Abbot Huiwen. So, Abbot Huiwen and the court heads came to Su Qin. Greetings, Venerable One. Abbot Huiwen bowed slightly and said respectfully. Greetings, Venerable One. The other court heads did the same. Get up. Su Qin waved his hand and said casually. I asked you to come this time because I have something to say. Su Qin's eyes were calm and said lightly, Today, I will leave the Shaolin Temple and travel the world. As soon as these words came out, Abbot Huiwen and the court heads' expressions instantly froze. No need to say anything else, I have decided on this matter. Su Qin looked at them and said. Abbot Huiwen and the court heads said in a low voice with a gloomy look on their faces. The Shaolin Temple had been open for thousands of years, and the previous Venerable Arhat would choose to travel the world for a period of time. Therefore, Abbot Huiwen and the court heads could not bear to part with him, but they could accept it. After all, for the Venerable Arhat, traveling the world was also a kind of cultivation. If they stopped him, it would be tantamount to destroying the Venerable's cultivation. No one dared to bear such a sin. After I leave, no one is allowed to come in here. Su Qin paused for a moment, and then continued. He had set up the Pure Land of Energy Gathering formation in the back of the mountain, and did not intend to take it back when he left. After all, Su Qin could set up such a formation as long as there were enough jade stones. As for why Su Qin did not allow others to enter here, it was because the concentration of yuan qi here was too high. If martial artists below the Venerable Arhat cultivated here, they would probably explode in an instant from the huge amount of yuan qi of heaven and earth. Su Qin didn't want to be surrounded by blood when he came back here again. Abbot Huiwen and the court heads nodded. The back of the mountain was where the Venerable secluded himself. Even if Su Qin did not mention this matter, they would still list this place as a forbidden area. Venerable, when will you come back? At this time, the warrior monastery court head could not help but ask. He asked this question from the bottom of his heart, and there was no utility in it at all. When will you come back? Su Qin smiled and did not reply. For Su Qin, even if he did return to the Shaolin Temple in the future, he would do so quietly and without alerting anyone. Okay, you can all go down. After Su Qin finished speaking, he slowly closed his eyes. This time, Su Qin asked Abbot Huiwen and the court heads to come over only to inform them. After all, he had also stayed in the Shaolin Temple for nearly 30 years. Even if he really wanted to leave, he would not leave without saying a word. Yes. Abbot Huiwen and the court heads finally bowed deeply to Su Qin before turning and leaving the back of the mountain. What should be left behind has been left behind, what should be done has been done, it's time to leave. Su Qin touched his eyebrows and thought silently in his heart. For the Shaolin Temple, or for any great sect in the world, the most important thing is always the people, not the inherited divine arts and the like. For example, in the Shaolin Temple, even if the scripture pavilion recorded countless divine arts, if it were not for Su Qin, there would not even be a grade 1 great grandmaster in this generation. Half a day later, Su Qin quietly left the Shaolin Temple. Outside the Shaolin Temple, the sky is high and the ground is wide. Su Qin walked hundreds of meters in one step, slowly heading in a certain direction. Haha. After being in the cage for a long time, I have returned to nature. Every time Su Qin took a step, a section of thick black hair grew. After just a few steps, his black hair spread over his shoulders. His eyes were bright and his skin was like jade. He did not look like an old-fashioned monk at all. Whether it is Venerable Arhat or a legend, even a severed limb can be reattached, not to mention growing hair again. Chang'an City is the ancient capital of 10 dynasties. It has a long heritage and has more Dao accumulation than the Shaolin Temple. It should be my next sign in place. It just so happens that my family Su is there now. Su Qin stopped and thought for a while before rushing towards Chang'an City. Chapter 94. Chang'an City. At this time, it was the Shangyuan festival. Fireworks bloomed, setting off the beauty of Chang and city. On the stargazing tower, the Emperor of Tang invited the officials to a banquet, drinking wine while admiring the fireworks. The princes were here, and so was Crown Prince Li Sheng. The Shangyuan Festival. I don't know if I can see the next Shangyuan Festival. The Emperor of Tang looked up at the sky and muttered to himself. Your Majesty must have a long life. How can you not see the next Shangyuan Festival? The officials hurriedly got up and knelt on the ground, not daring to look up. Ha! The Emperor of Tang glanced at the crowd, and a mocking smile appeared on his face. My officials are right. I'm just lamenting. Yun Yang, I feel that father's health has deteriorated again. Crown Prince Li Sheng stole a glance at the Emperor of Tang and whispered to Su Yueyun next to him. Su Yueyun heard this, and her pretty face changed slightly. She shook her head and said, You can't say this outside. Crown Prince Li Sheng sighed softly. How could he not understand this logic? All the officials said that His Majesty had a long life, but he felt that His Majesty's health had deteriorated. If this was heard by someone and spread, it would have a great impact on his position as the crown prince. However, Li Sheng was really concerned about the Emperor of Tang's health. Although Li Sheng had only known the Emperor of Tang for a few years, he could feel that the Emperor of Tang was sincere to him. He made him the crown prince because he really wanted to pass the throne to him. The Emperor of Tang treated him like this. How could Li Sheng have the heart to publicly lie to the Emperor of Tang? His Majesty sees things much more clearly than you. Su Yueyun hesitated for a moment and then said in a low voice, In court, who is loyal and who is not loyal, the Emperor knows better than you. For now, you just need to take care of your own matters and do your best to stabilize your position as the crown prince. As for other matters, don't think too much about it, because it's useless even if you think about it. Su Yueyun looked around and said quickly in a low voice. Ever since she and Li Sheng had entered the Eastern Palace, the Emperor of Tang had often come to visit them. Although Su Yueyun and the Emperor of Tang had not spoken much, she could tell that this old man, who had one foot in the coffin, seemed to have a clear understanding of the situation in the imperial court and could see things more clearly than anyone else. Very soon, the Emperor of Tang seemed to have lost interest and hurriedly ended the banquet. The officials returned to their respective manners. Su Yueyun hesitated for a moment, then lowered his head and said to Li Sheng, My father and mother are waiting for me in the manor. I won't go back to the palace for now. All right. Crown Prince Li Sheng nodded. During the Shangyuan festival, Su Yueyun wanted to go back to the Su mansion to gather with her family for a while. How could he stop him? I won't go, so as not to disturb you. Crown Prince Li Sheng said very sensibly. No matter what, he was the crown prince of the imperial court. If he went back to the Su mansion with Su Yueyun, the family Su would not be able to celebrate the Shangyuan festival. After the two parted, Su Yueyun went to the Su mansion. Since Su Yueyun was conferred as the crown princess, the family Su became relatives of the imperial court and was rewarded with a mansion by the Emperor of Tang. This mansion was the current Su mansion. Father, mother, I'm back. Su Yueyun got out of the jade carriage and walked toward the Su mansion. Yun, you're finally back. I've been waiting for you for a long time. The head of the family Su, Su Shimin, came over and said with a smile. Mother Su also stood up with a smile on her face. Little sister, you're back. The two brothers of the family Su waved at Su Yueyun and greeted her. They quickly sat down and prepared to chat while eating. Little sister, His Majesty asked you to go to the stargazing tower to enjoy the fireworks. It must be beautiful, right? The eldest brother of the family Su, Su Sungho, said with a face full of envy. The stargazing tower was the tallest building in Chang'an City. It was said that one could see the entire Chang'an City from the top and take in all the beautiful scenery. Beautiful? Su Yueyun shook her head. I think it's the most beautiful to watch the fireworks from here. All right, Qinghao, it's not easy for your little sister to come back. As her brother, don't always mention these things. Su Shimin glared at Su Sungho. Father, it's okay. Su Yueyun smiled and said, All right, little sister. At this time, the second brother of the family Su, Su Qingyu, asked curiously, Do you like that jade pendant? I think it's quite ordinary. Su Qingyu glanced at the jade pendant hanging on Su Yueyun's waist, his face full of doubts. In his opinion, that jade pendant was extremely ordinary, not even worth 10 coins. Not to mention that Su Yueyun was the crown princess. Even if she was only the daughter of the family Su, there was no way she would treat it as a treasure. This jade pendant, huh? Su Yueyun looked down and shook her head. I don't know why I like it. In short, the first time I saw it, I wanted to wear it. Su Yueyun paused and continued, I feel that as long as I wear this jade pendant, I can always be safe and happy. Su Yueyun's words made Su Qingyu helpless. Little sister, you've been deceived. There's no jade pendant in this world that can keep people safe and happy. Su Qingyu was about to say a few more words, but when he saw Su Shimin staring at him fiercely, he immediately shrunk his head and didn't dare to continue. The family chatted as they ate. After they finished eating, Su Sungho suggested that they go outside and take a look at Chang and city's market. This suggestion was obviously approved by most people. The family Su group walked out of the Su mansion and came to the market. They admired the fireworks that kept blooming under the night sky while looking at the street vendors hawking their goods. How great would it be if third brother could be here? Su Yueyun thought of something, and her expression was obviously downcast. The Shangyuan festival was supposed to be a family reunion, and no one could be missing. But now their family Su was obviously missing Su Qin. I've already persuaded the county governor to ask for him from the Shaolin Temple, but then a certain venerable arhat seemed to have appeared in the Shaolin Temple. Su Shimin sighed softly and said, originally, when Su Yueyun became the crown princess, their family Su would be riding on the coattails of the royal family. Su Shimin was planning to get Su Qin out of the Shaolin Temple. At first, he and the county governor had a good discussion. The county governor patted his chest and assured him that everything would be fine. But later, a venerable arhat walked out of the Shaolin Temple and killed the devil lord who attacked Xiaoshi Mountain. His name shocked the world, and the county governor never mentioned this again. Although Su Shimin was unwilling to accept this, there was nothing he could do. Because he was also a martial artist, and he knew the meaning of arhat. At this moment, even the emperor of Tang wouldn't dare to order the Shaolin Temple, let alone a mere county governor. There will be a way in the future, Su Yueyun forced a smile and said. At this moment, Su Yueyun was walking when she suddenly slipped and lost her balance. Coupled with her low spirits, she forgot to adjust her strength and was about to fall to the ground. Su Shimin immediately noticed the abnormality and rushed forward to support Su Yueyun. However, suddenly, a slender figure walked towards them and actually rushed in front of Su Shimin to support Su Yueyun. Watch where you're going. The slender figure walked with his back to the light. Whether it was Su Yueyun or the rest of family Su, they couldn't see his face clearly. After the slender figure helped Su Yueyun steady, he walked in the opposite direction of family Su. Thank you. Su Yueyun instinctively wanted to thank him. But in the next moment, Su Yueyun was stunned. A sense of closeness that seemed to come from the depths of his blood rushed to his heart. Wait a minute. Su Yueyun suddenly turned around and shouted at the slender figure who was about to leave. Su Shimin and the rest of family Su saw Su Yueyun's reaction and also looked at the slender figure in confusion. The slender figure paused, as if hesitating, but finally slowly turned around. Under the curtain of stars, fireworks bloomed. It was beautiful. The slender figure slowly turned around, facing the starlight, and smiled at Su Yueyun and the rest. Little sister, long time no see. End of Volume 1. Chapter 95. Chang and city was filled with fireworks. Su Qin stood there with his hands behind his back. His eyes were calm as he looked at Su Yueyun and family Su with a smile on his face. Su Qin's main purpose in coming to Chang and city was to find a new sign in place and to meet family Su. You are. Su Yueyun's eyes widened when he saw Su Qin. He felt that the man in front of him was very familiar, but he couldn't remember who he was. When Su Qin entered the Shaolin Temple, Su Yueyun was only 3 years old. Almost 30 years had passed, and his childhood memories were blurred. You are Qin? Su Shimin asked with a trembling voice. Unlike Su Yueyun, Su Shimin recognized Su Qin the moment he saw him. When Su Qin entered the Shaolin Temple, he was still 10 years old, and his eyebrows had grown a little. Even after 30 years, Su Shimin could still see the shadow of the 10-year-old Su Qin. Qin, its third brother? Su Sungho and Su Qingyu looked at each other in disbelief. It's me, Su Qin said lightly. It's really third brother. Third brother, when did you arrive in Chang? The two family Su brothers immediately ran to Su Qin and looked him up and down. They were half surprised and half happy. Qin, though, what is going on? Su Shimin strode forward and looked at Su Qin in disbelief. Su Sungho and Su Qingyu also looked at Su Qin curiously. I stayed in the Shaolin Temple for almost 30 years. I didn't want to stay any longer, so I left, Su Qin said calmly. I don't want to stay here anymore. Su Sungho and Su Qingyu looked at each other in disbelief. The Shaolin Temple was a great martial arts sect in the world. A few years ago, it was rumored that the Venerable Arhat was in charge of it. How could such a behemoth let its disciples go so easily? Qin, tell me honestly. What's going on? Did you commit a crime and escape? Su Shimin's expression kept changing. Finally, he asked solemnly. This was also what Su Shimin was most worried about. He was afraid that Su Qin would go astray. With the current foundation of the Shaolin Temple, if Su Qin really makes a big mistake in the Shaolin Temple, who can protect him? Father, if I really made a mistake, would I be able to walk out of the Shaolin Temple? Su Qin shook his head and said. When Su Shimin heard this, his expression immediately eased. Indeed. He was a little worried just now. What kind of place was the Shaolin Temple? Without the abbot's permission, would Su Qin be able to walk out? I didn't expect that today's Shangyuan festival would be the day our family reunited. Su Shimin was in a good mood. Little Qin, how did you know that our family Su moved to Chang? Su Sungho asked curiously. Su Qin had already thought of an answer. I went back to Yen City and heard from the people there that you are here. I see. Su Shimin nodded slightly. The fact that the family Su moved out of Cangzhou was not a secret. He just had to ask anyone to find out. Little Qin, this time our family Su is successful. Guess who my little sister married? The Crown Prince. Our family Su is now a relative of the emperor. Su Qingyue became complacent and immediately shared this matter with Su Qin. Third brother. Su Yueyun stood up, her pretty face was also full of joy. The few of them chatted for a while. Su Sungho and Su Qingyu asked questions here and there. After this conversation, everyone no longer had any doubts about Su Qin's identity. If it was a coincidence that there were two people in the world who looked similar, Su Qin obviously knew everything about the family Su. If Su Qin did not mention some things, even Su Sungho and Su Qingyu would have forgotten. Third brother, so many years have passed. Why do you look so young? Su Yueyun looked at Su Qin with some envy. After all, Su Qin was sent to the Shaolin Temple when he was 10 years old. Now, almost 30 years had passed. Logically speaking, Su Qin at this age should be middle-aged and have experienced the vicissitudes of life. But now, Su Qin had bright eyes, long black hair, and jade-like skin. He was even more energetic than a 20-year-old youth. The other members of the Su family also noticed this and clicked their tongues in wonder. Maybe the Shaolin Temple's lamp and Buddha statue can slow down aging? Su Qin thought for a while and said, although the Venerable Arhat could keep his youth forever, ordinary people could also live a long life if they stayed away from worldly disputes. I'm afraid that's the case, Su Shimin sighed. Su Qin's words made sense. But how many people in the world could give up everything in the world and be willing to stay away from the lamp and Buddha statue? Little Qin, I heard that there's an Arhat in the Shaolin Temple. You've been in the Shaolin Temple for so long. Have you seen him? Su Sungho suddenly thought of something and asked with interest. For them, the Venerable Arhat was too far away from being a martial arts legend. If it weren't for Su Qin, they wouldn't even mention him. Su Shimin's eyes lit up when he heard this. Qin, have you seen the Venerable Arhat? What kind of person is he? Su Shimin lowered his voice when he said this. as if he was afraid that the venerable arhat in the Shaolin temple would hear him. Su Qin thought for a moment and said seriously, "Nothing special. He's about the same as me." Su Sungho heard this and said after a while, "Little Qin, you're really good at joking." The other family Su people also chuckled. They thought that Su Qin probably hadn't seen the venerable arhat in the Shaolin temple. "Qin, don't say such things in the future. The venerable arhat of Buddhism is very powerful. Maybe one day he'll know what you're saying." Su Shimin reminded Su Qin with a serious expression. They walked for a while and returned to the Su mansion. "By the way, Qin, what are you going to do this time?" Su Shimin asked after a moment of hesitation. With the current status of the family Su, even if Su Qin didn't do anything, they could still support him for a lifetime. However, Su Shimin was born as a martial artist and hated those rich kids who only knew how to eat, drink, and play. Therefore, Su Sungho and Su Qinyu joined the army early. "Little Qin, you should join the army too. I can recommend you to the general." Su Sungho immediately suggested. "That's not good. Little Qin doesn't have the talent for martial arts. If he really joins the army, not only will it be difficult for him to be promoted, but he will also be looked down upon." Su Qinyu shook his head and rejected. The rules in the army were very simple. Whoever had the biggest fist was the boss. With Su Qin's weak appearance, he would definitely be bullied. Su Yueyun hesitated for a while and couldn't help but say, "Can I ask His Highness to let third brother work in the palace? His Highness is short of manpower now. Third brother can go to the East Palace as a counselor. Don't worry, it's just a title. He won't have to do anything." Hearing Su Yueyun's words, Su Sungho and Su Qinyu both nodded. The salary of a counselor to His Highness the Crown Prince would definitely be good. At least it would be much better than being a soldier in the army. "Qin, what do you think?" Su Shimin was also quite satisfied. He looked at Su Qin and asked tentatively. No matter where he went, he always had to listen to Su Qin's wishes. If Su Qin didn't want to, the family Su didn't want to force him. The Imperial Palace. Su Qin slightly raised his head and looked in the direction of the Imperial Palace. Chapter 96. In the end, Su Qin agreed to Su Yueyun's suggestion. His purpose for coming to Chang and City this time was to find a new place to sign in. Looking at the entire Chang and City, only the palace in the Imperial City could have a large amount of Daoist connotation. After all, Chang and City was the ancient capital of the 10 dynasties. After thousands of years, the outer city had been rebuilt countless times. Only the Imperial City had remained to this day. With Su Qin's current strength, unless there was a martial arts legend in the palace, sneaking in would be as simple as eating and drinking. But in any case, it was good to have an identity that could conceal his identity. At least Su Qin would have a reason to enter and leave the palace freely in the future. "Okay. I'll tell His Highness when I go back tonight." Su Yueyun was very concerned about his third brother's matter. After returning to the Eastern Palace, he mentioned this matter to Crown Prince Li Sheng. And Crown Prince Li Sheng naturally agreed without hesitation. One had to know that since Su Qin was Su Yueyun's third brother, which meant that he was Li Sheng's brother-in-law. If a family member wanted a job, of course, he would not refuse. The next day, Su Qin officially moved into the Eastern Palace. And in order to please Su Qin, his brother-in-law, Crown Prince Li Sheng even arranged the right spring square in the Eastern Palace for Su Qin. As expected of the ancient capital of the 10 dynasties. Whether it's the layout or other aspects, it's almost perfect. Su Qin stood in the attic of the right spring square and looked at the entire imperial city. He nodded slightly in his heart. Compared to the vicissitudes of the Shaolin Temple, the imperial palace was another kind of majestic and domineering. Every corner revealed the supremacy of imperial power. "I hope it won't disappoint me," a trace of anticipation flashed in Su Qin's eyes. Time passed slowly. In the blink of an eye, a month had passed. During this month, Su Qin visited a small part of the palace. Sure enough, it was as Su Qin expected. He could also sign in at the palace. And to Su Qin's surprise, There were far more check-in locations in the Imperial Palace than in the Shaolin Temple. In the Shaolin Temple, the only places that could repeatedly sign in for Su Qin were the Demon Subduing Tower, the Scripture Pavilion, and the Bodhi Court. But in the palace, there were at least 5 places where Su Qin could repeatedly sign in. The reason why he said, at least, was because the palace was too big. There were still many places where Su Qin didn't sign in, so he had to use them at least. So far, Su Qin had signed in at the Longevity Hall, Stargazing Tower, Taiji Palace, White Jade Square, Crop Altar, and so on. For example, in the Temple of Immortals, Su Qin signed in and obtained a copy of the Longevity Secret Art. The art of longevity was a Daoist secret art. It was said to be able to refine one's qi to become immortal and prolong one's life. Every 100 years or hundreds of years, there would be news of a lucky person who obtained the art of longevity and was able to prolong one's life by decades or hundreds of years. The only pity is that the threshold for entering the longevity secret art is too high. It requires a kind of physique that is close to the Tao. It is precisely because of this that one can be extremely close to the profound meaning of the unity of heaven and man in the longevity secret art. However, how rare is a physique that is close to the Tao? 1 in a million people is even rarer than a grade 1 great grandmaster. In other words, even if others get the longevity secret art, it is very likely that they won't be able to enter it. But Su Qin is different. With the system's infusion, the so-called threshold of the longevity secret art can be ignored. On the night of obtaining the longevity secret art, Su Qin had already entered the longevity secret art. In the following month, Su Qin relied on his Arhat level and quickly cultivated the longevity secret art to great accomplishment, extending his life by 200 years. 200 years of Shoyun. Su Qin's face was full of joy. 200 years of Shoyuan, plus the 800 years of Shoyuan of Venerable Arhat, as long as there are no accidents, Su Qin can live for more than 1,000 years. This is based on the premise that Su Qin will not make any progress in the next 1,000 years. 1,000 years. Su Qin's face was filled with emotion. The Empire of Tang has only been around for more than 500 years. Su Qin alone is equivalent to the Empire of Tang. Not bad, not bad. Su Qin was very satisfied. The only regret is that the threshold for entering the longevity secret art is too high and cannot be popularized. Even if Su Qin himself has cultivated it to great accomplishment, he can't let others learn this Taoist secret art. In addition to obtaining the longevity secret art at the Long Life Temple, Su Qin also obtained the star traction technique outside the stargazing tower. The star traction technique can draw the power of billions of stars for one's own use. It can be used to kill enemies and protect oneself. Of course, the star traction technique has very high requirements for the user. At least a peak first-grade condensed divine sense is qualified to cultivate it. And even a peak first-grade condensed divine sense can only draw 1 or a few stars at most. The effect is not too great. It has the same effect as the lunar body refining art. Su Qin touched his chin, a thoughtful look in his eyes. The lunar body refining technique can gather the power of the lunar body, and the star traction technique can draw the power of the stars. Perhaps others think that the moon is the moon and the stars are the stars, and the two are not the same thing at all. But Su Qin knows that even the moon and the sun in the sky are just one of the billions of stars. The difference between them is nothing more than distance. Other than that, Su Qin also obtained the White Jade True Body at the White Jade Square, the innate spirit liquid outside the crop altar in the Imperial Palace, and so on. The White Jade True Body is a body refining technique similar to the invincible Vajra divine art of the Shaolin Temple. Su Qin is not interested in it. With his current physical body, even if he cultivates the White Jade True Body to great accomplishment, there won't be any improvement. But the innate spirit liquid of the crop altar made Su Qin happy for a long time. Innate spirit liquid is a magical liquid born from heaven and earth. It is extremely rare. Usually, only venerable Arhat or martial arts legends can find 1 or 2 drops when they travel the world and are very lucky. But the effect of the innate spirit liquid is also very significant. It can greatly improve the cultivation progress of Arhat level. After Su Qin obtained the innate spirit liquid, he tried to swallow a drop. As a result, his strength skyrocketed. If Su Qin didn't suppress it in time and wanted to wait until he had complete confidence to break through, he would have probably broken through to the 4th heavenly layer Arhat realm by now. A drop of innate spirit liquid is probably comparable to 10 glazed golden cores, and it's the kind that doesn't take time to absorb. Su Qin exclaimed in his heart. One must know that even with the past Amitabha Sutra, Su Qin needs several days to completely absorb each glazed golden core. But the innate spirit liquid is different. Not only is it 10 times more effective than the glazed golden core, but it also saves Su Qin a lot of time. This in and out, the improvement of Su Qin's strength is simply terrifying. Sure enough, more people still need to come out and run around. If I continue to stay in the Shaolin Temple, when can I get these treasures? Su Qin couldn't help but smile. Welcome to Legends of Cultivation, audiobooks, where we bring ancient fantasy to life through storytelling. Follow the rise of heroes who defy fate, unlock mystical powers, and battle across celestial realms. Our audiobooks are crafted for fans of Chinese cultivation novels, filled with battles, breakthroughs, and legendary artifacts. Subscribe and be part of an unforgettable journey into the realm of immortality.